Once upon a time, in a sleepy little village nestled between rolling hills and golden fields, there lived two hard-working farmers named Ravi and Kiran. From dawn till dusk, they toiled under the sun, plowing fields, sowing seeds, and harvesting crops to feed their families. Life was no walk in the park. It was more like a marathon through a thorny bush, but they never gave up. Their hands were calloused, their backs ached, and their spirits were as stubborn as the mules they plowed with. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Ravi and Kiran sat beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient banyan tree. The tree was so old, it probably had stories older than their grandparents. As they rested, a voice deep, resonant, and unmistakably divine code from the heavens. It was God, and he had a question for them. "My dear children," God began, his voice as soothing as a lullaby, but as commanding as a king's decree. "If I gave you another life, what would you want to be?" Ravi, the first farmer, sighed so heavily it could have blown the leaves off the banyan tree. "Oh, Almighty," he said, rubbing his sore shoulders, "I work so hard, yet my life is one big struggle. People take advantage of me, and I'm always giving, giving, giving. I'm tired of this life." He paused, then added with a dramatic flourish, "In my next life, I want to receive from everyone. I don't want to give anything to anyone. Not a grain of rice, not a drop of water, nothing." God nodded, his expression unreadable. "So be it," he said, his voice echoing like a gong. Then he turned to Kiran, the second farmer, who was sitting cross-legged, his hands folded in prayer. "And what about you, Kiran?" God asked, his tone softer now, like a gentle breeze. Kiran smiled, his face glowing like the moon on a clear night. "You have already blessed me with so much," he said. "I've never gone to bed hungry, and I've felt the joy of feeding others. What more could I ask for?" He paused, his smile fading slightly. "But there is one thing I regret deeply." God leaned in, intrigued. Kiran sighed, his voice tinged with regret. "I wish I had helped more people. I wish no one ever left my house empty-handed. If you bless me with another life, let me have the ability to help everyone in need." God's smile widened, and the banyan tree seemed to sway in approval. "So be it," he declared. Years passed, and the two farmers lived out their remaining days. When their time came, they were reborn, just as God had promised. Ravi, the one who wished to receive from everyone, opened his eyes to find himself dressed in tattered clothes, sitting on a dusty road with an empty bowl in his hands. He had become a beggar. People passed him by, some tossing coins, others ignoring him entirely. No matter how much he received, it was never enough. He was always dependent on others, unable to work or give. His life was a never-ending cycle of waiting for handouts. One day, as he sat on the side of the road, a particularly stingy man walked by and tossed a single coin into his bowl. Ravi looked up and said, "Sir, with this coin, I can either buy a loaf of bread or a lottery ticket. Which do you think I should choose?" The man smirked. "Buy the bread, you're not lucky enough to win the lottery." Ravi sighed. "You're probably right. My luck is about as good as a rain dance in a desert." Meanwhile, Kiran was reborn into a wealthy family. He grew up to be the richest man in the village, but unlike others, he didn't hoard his wealth. His house became a sanctuary for the needy. He built schools, fed the hungry, and helped farmers grow better crops. His generosity was as boundless as the ocean, and his heart as warm as a summer's day. One evening, as Kiran sat in his grand courtyard, a beggar knocked on his door. It was Ravi, though neither of them recognized each other. Kiran felt an unusual sense of familiarity, as if the universe itself was whispering in his ear. He opened the door and saw the beggar's hollow eyes and trembling hands. "Come in," Kiran said warmly, his voice like a comforting blanket. "You will never go hungry in my house." Ravi shuffled inside, his eyes wide with disbelief. He sat down at the table, where a feast awaited him. As he ate, tears filled his eyes. It was then that he realized the truth. His own wish had made him a beggar, and his friend's wish had made him the most powerful giver in the village. Ravi looked up at Kiran, his voice trembling. "I once wished only to receive, and now I have nothing. But you wished to give, and now you have everything." Kiran smiled, his eyes twinkling like stars. "The universe has a funny way of teaching us lessons, doesn't it?" Ravi nodded, his heart heavy with regret but also filled with newfound wisdom. "God was right," he whispered. "True wealth is not in what you receive, but in what you give." From that day on, Ravi never begged again. He worked, helped others, and lived a life of gratitude. He learned that life gives you what you ask for. If you only want to receive, you will always feel lacking. But if you wish to give, you will always have enough. The story of the two farmers teaches us that those who are thankful for what they have and who selflessly help others are ultimately rewarded by the universe. The law of the universe is simple. What we give is what we receive. The seeds of kindness you plant today will blossom into blessings tomorrow. As the villagers often said, if you want to be rich, don't count your coins, count your kindness. And so, the village thrived, not because of its wealth, but because of its heart. And they all lived gratefully ever after.